Hey everybody, welcome back to Out Reptiles. My name is Garrett Hartle, and in this week's videos, we're going to talk about animals from Kalatoa Island. Kalatoa Island is a small island south of Sulawesi from this island chain that actually produces some of the world's smallest varieties of the world's largest pythons. Those are reticulated pythons. Kalatoas have a reputation for being one of the smallest naturally occurring races of these animals. Take this girl, for example, at just under 3 years old. She's about the size of maybe a 4-month-old reticulated python from the mainland. Because of their small size being super attractive within the pet trade for people wanting to get into reticulated pythons, slowly but surely, exports from this small island began to creep across the globe, filling up the global reptile keeping community with tiny little island forms of these magnificent animals. So apart from just being small, the animals from Kalatoa Island have an incredible busy pattern and beautiful coloration that really began to blend well into these different morphs. Now, as these smaller island populations began to become better known, there arose the use of marketing terms dwarf and superdwarf animals to describe the animals from different islands. Starting with the dwarf animals from islands like Jampea and the surrounding areas, people began to shrink these animals down, although there was a customer base that for them, those animals crosses were still just getting too large. So in order to retain the public's attention and not lose them completely, the animals from Kalatoa Island were rebranded as superdwarfs, and the race was on. These small, busy patterned, spectacularly colored animals with generally great temperaments for a wild-caught retic, just like this. This is actually a wild-caught imported adult male. This is the sire of our Reach Dreams line. Because people learned that name, Kalatoa, the popularity just began to explode because they were known for being so much smaller even than the dwarf retics, which were already impressively small compared to their mainland counterparts. The problem is that as people learned that word Kalatoa, it began to become synonymous with superdwarf reticulated python, a term that's generally used to describe all of those islands around Kalatoa. So much as if I was to say, go search for something on the internet, I might say, just Google it. Whether you're actually using google.com, Firefox, Bing, whatever your search engine is, we could say Google it and you would know that I'm talking about searching for something on the internet. This began to become the fall of the true Kalatoa Island animal. Because the name and term became synonymous with superdwarf, you'll hear a lot of people, breeders, offering things as Kalatoas, and then when asked specifically, is this a Kalatoa, how do you know? They say, I don't know that anybody actually knows, how could you ever know? There's always a chance something else got slipped in there, but it's pretty industry standard to call them Kalatoas. So in an effort to legitimize their superdwarf bloodlines with unknown locality, rather than saying we don't know what locality these animals are, people began to call them Kalatoas as early as the 1990s. And they're still doing those things today. This is probably going to be the fall of the magnificent true Kalatoa Island animals like this boy right here. As the global popularity of Kalatoa Island animals, along with all superdwarfs, began to increase, the mistakes were more and more common, watering down so many bloodlines. But in this video, we want to show you a few different varieties and looks, some of the traits that the true Kalatoa Island animals do have. Now, in terms of size, Kalatoas are genetically limited to how big they can get. Unfortunately, a lot of people who were unfamiliar with exactly how island dwarfism works theorized that maybe it was just a lack of food keeping them small. In other words, if you fed them a lot, which they love, they would get quite a bit bigger. So what you ended up with was, instead of the imported animals all coming in around this size, maybe the size of this 6-foot male, give or take a little bit, you ended up with people who came up with just crazy feeding schedules saying, go ahead and feed them 3 times a week, they can take it. And certainly the animals enjoy it, but it doesn't mean it's good for them. So you would end up with kind of unnaturally large Kalatoas like this girl, who's close to 10 feet. Nevertheless, with an animal being fed 3 times a week and only growing 10 feet, it became very clear in a short period of time that these were definitely indeed genetically limited on how large they can grow. which hopefully would encourage people to stop using crazy feed schedules of either way too little or way too much, and just focus on the animal being allowed to be what it is genetically and enjoying them for their amazing color and pattern. Let's take a look at some of that now. One of my favorite things about Kalatoa Island Retics is the extraordinarily high saddle count. They basically have almost double the amount of pattern going down their backs than your average locality retic would have. Kalatoas also have a unique head structure. They have a very thin head and smaller jowls on the end than a lot of other localities. They could either have beauty marks or no beauty marks, but they tend to have very thin, refined markings on the top of their head, and their eye color can range from completely silver, monotone colors to vibrant orange, especially in the hatchlings, which often lose it as they age. Kalatoas can actually have a pretty diverse pattern when you look at them compared to other localities, but some of the things that they tend to always have is a very busy pattern, and that high saddle count. Most of the dorsal pattern will be pulled up away from the sides and up along the top. They can also tend towards some dorsal striping where you get a single black scale running down the length of the animal. And this captive bred one has been kind of cleaned up from the speckling in the background. This is a TK line Kalatoa. They're known for that, as opposed to this wild type animal, which has really heavy dark modeling that he's passed on to his kids. This would be the Reach Dreams line animals, which are more typical to what you would see from a wild-caught animal. Heavy, mottled, speckling throughout, very chaotic patterns, but always pulled up towards that top of the animal, leaving lots of room on the sides for big, beautiful rosettes, the cool, gravelly, charcoal gray side flames that shoot up vertically in between those rosettes. It really provides for amazing contrast between the colored portions and the gray portions of the animals. Well, for all the popularity that the humble Kalatoa Island reticulated python has brought to the reptile trade, opening up a whole world of animals being able to be kept by keepers that aren't maybe, you know, specialty, gigantic, exotic animal keepers. I don't know about you guys, but I would hate to see the original, pure, actual Kalatoa Island, not Google snake, but Kalatoa Island animal disappear from existence. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of us sharing some of our pure Kalatoa Island animals so that you know kind of what to look for in an animal if you want to go down that preservation alley of working with the pure things. If you want to learn more about some of these other localities, which just because they're less popular doesn't make them any less cool, check out this video right here. This one. Right there. That's it. God, I love this snake.